Kindness is powerful, but when handed out to everyone without thought, it becomes dangerous. Not just to your peace, but to your identity. This isn't a call to be cold. This is a call to be conscious. Because if you keep being kind to everyone, you'll eventually have nothing left for yourself. Kindness is often praised as one of the most admirable traits a person can have. We're taught from an early age to be kind, generous and considerate, to give freely, help others, and be there for those in need. But what happens when that kindness is extended to everyone, all the time, without boundaries or pause? What happens when kindness becomes your default setting, even when it costs you your energy, your time, and your peace? The truth is, kindness without boundaries doesn't just hurt. It destroys. It leads to emotional burnout, mental fatigue, and a slow erosion of your sense of self. You see, when you make it your mission to be kind to everyone, you place yourself on a battlefield. Every demand, every expectation, every plea for your time or help becomes a weight. And with no filter for who deserves your kindness and who's simply taking advantage of it, you find yourself constantly giving from a cup that's never allowed to refill. Eventually, the wear and tear shows. You start feeling exhausted for no reason. You feel emotionally drained after every interaction. You feel guilty when you say no, and worse when you say yes. That's not compassion. That's self-destruction. The world doesn't operate on equal emotional exchanges. Not everyone gives back what you give. Some people only take. They recognize your kindness as something to exploit. They don't see you as generous. They see you as someone who can be manipulated. And the more you give, the more they expect. The moment you hesitate, they guilt you. The moment you set a boundary, they question your character. In their eyes, your worth is tied to your usefulness. And if you're not careful, you start believing it too. Kindness is not meant to be unconditional self-sacrifice. It's not meant to be a one-way transaction where you constantly bleed energy to make others comfortable. There has to be balance. There has to be wisdom in your compassion. Being kind to everyone all the time is not noble. It's naive. You are not an emotional vending machine. You are a human being with limits, needs, and a right to protect your energy. If you're constantly tired, overwhelmed, or anxious because you're trying to keep everyone happy, it's not kindness that's at play. It's neglect. Neglect of self. Real kindness begins with self-respect. It means knowing your value and recognizing that your energy is not free for everyone to drain. It means saying yes when it aligns with your heart and no when it costs you your peace. When you start protecting your energy, you'll notice a shift. You stop feeling resentful. You'll stop attracting takers. You'll start valuing your time more, and others will too. Because when kindness has boundaries, it becomes powerful. It becomes a choice, not a weakness. And that's where your strength truly lies. There's a dangerous misconception that being kind always means saying yes, going along with what others want and never causing conflict. This confusion blurs the line between true kindness and people-pleasing. Two things that may look similar on the outside, but are completely different at their core. Kindness comes from a place of confidence, strength, and genuine care. People-pleasing, on the other hand, often comes from fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of not being liked. And when you spend your life trying to please everyone, you slowly lose who you are. People-pleasing disguises itself as kindness because it involves doing things for others, often at your own expense. You smile when you're hurting. You agree when you want to say no. You go out of your way for people who wouldn't lift a finger for you. You become the person who bends, breaks, and shrinks, just to make sure everyone else is okay, even if you're not. But that's not kindness. That's self-abandonment, and it's unsustainable. Eventually, the need to please becomes a burden. Every decision starts to feel like a trap. Should you say yes to stay liked, or say no and risk disappointing someone? True kindness doesn't demand the sacrifice of your well-being. It doesn't require you to hide your true feelings or pretend to be someone you're not. Kindness is honest, clear, and firm when it needs to be. It comes from a full cup, not a desperate attempt to fill someone else's. When you're kind from a place of wholeness, it uplifts others and still honors yourself. But people-pleasing does the opposite. It wears a mask of generosity, while inside it chips away at your confidence and your boundaries. The people who benefit most from your people-pleasing behavior are the ones who expect you to be available at all times, agreeable in all situations, and silent when things hurt you. And once you break that pattern, once you start saying no or expressing how you really feel, they get uncomfortable. Why? Because your kindness wasn't about mutual respect. It was about your compliance. And now that you're choosing authenticity over approval, they don't know how to handle it. Being kind doesn't mean being silent when someone crosses the line. It doesn't mean always being agreeable to avoid tension. And it definitely doesn't mean betraying yourself to gain acceptance. When you act out of fear of not being liked, you're not being kind, you're being controlled. Kindness should be rooted in love, not fear. In self-awareness, not self-erasure. So the next time you're tempted to call yourself sacrifice kindness, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I want to, or because I'm afraid not to? If the answer is fear, then it's not kindness, it's people-pleasing. And that pattern needs to be broken. Because the world doesn't need more people who say yes to stay liked. It needs more people who are kind enough to be honest, even when it's hard. Not everyone deserves your kindness. That statement might feel harsh at first, especially if you've been conditioned to believe that kindness should be given freely to all, without question. But the reality is, not every person you meet will respect your intentions, appreciate your efforts, or value your presence. Some will see your kindness as a weakness, an open door they can walk through, take from, and never give back. If you don't learn to be selective with your kindness, you'll keep handing it to those who only drain you, not those who deserve you. There are people out there who operate with manipulation in mind. They study how you react. They notice that you say yes even when you're uncomfortable. They realize that you hate confrontation, that you give benefit of the doubt even when it's undeserved, that your empathy makes you vulnerable. These are the ones who will keep taking your time, your energy, your generosity. And never once consider pouring anything back into you. They don't see you as kind. They see you as convenient. What's more damaging is that over time, being kind to the wrong people starts to affect how you see yourself. You begin to question your worth when others don't reciprocate. You wonder why you feel invisible despite everything you give. You start to think there's something wrong with you, that you're too sensitive, too emotional, too nice. But the truth is, you're giving your best to people who don't even deserve a fraction of it. The problem isn't that you're too kind. The problem is that you haven't learned to protect your kindness from the wrong hands. Being kind is not about turning the other cheek to everyone. It's about knowing who is worthy of your energy. It's about learning to say no, not from a place of bitterness, but from a place of wisdom. You don't have to be cruel. You don't have to become cold, but you do have to be aware of patterns, behaviors, and intentions. Because if someone continually disrespects your boundaries, ignores your needs, or only contacts you when they need something, that person is not confused, they are consistent. And their consistency is your cue to stop giving. Your kindness should be sacred, not scattered. It should be something you offer to those who respect it, reciprocate it, and appreciate it. Because when you give to the wrong people, you take away from the ones who truly value you. Worse, you take away from yourself. You end up emotionally exhausted, mentally checked out, and spiritually depleted, wondering why kindness feels so heavy. It's because you've been carrying people who were never meant to walk with you. Protect your kindness like you protect your peace. Give it to those who earn it through respect, honesty, and loyalty, not just need or charm. Let your kindness be powerful, not passive. And remember, it's not unkind to stop being kind to those who have shown you they don't value it. It's self-respect. And that's a lesson every kind person must eventually learn. There comes a point in life where you have to choose between constantly seeking approval and truly respecting yourself. Many people spend years molding their personality, words, and actions around what others expect of them, desperate to be seen as nice, likable, or agreeable. But here's the hard truth. You cannot keep sacrificing your self-respect for social approval, no matter how much you try. You will never be enough for everyone. And the more you chase validation from others, the further you drift from who you really are. When your self-worth is tied to being liked, every interaction becomes a performance. You say what people want to hear. You hold back your truth to avoid conflict. You let things slide that bother you because you don't want to be seen as difficult. And you keep quiet when your boundaries are crossed, hoping your silence will be mistaken for strength. But inside, resentment grows. Because deep down, you know you're betraying yourself just to maintain a version of you that others find comfortable. The problem is, social approval is a moving target. One day you're praised for being helpful, the next day you're criticized for not doing enough. Some people will love you no matter what. Others will judge you no matter what. And a large number won't even care enough to notice. So why give so much power to their opinions? Why hand over your peace just to be accepted by people who might not even have your best interests at heart? Self-respect is quiet, but it is powerful. It means knowing when to walk away, even if staying would keep the peace. It means choosing honesty over likability, even if it makes people uncomfortable. It means recognizing your needs and not apologizing for having them. When you respect yourself, you stop tolerating disrespect, manipulation, and emotional crumbs disguised as connection. You stop bending to be liked and start standing to be seen, as you are, not as who others want you to be. There's a strength that comes from setting boundaries even when it makes others uncomfortable. There's confidence in saying this isn't okay when you've been told to stay polite. That kind of self-respect doesn't push others away, it teaches them how to treat you. And those who truly value you will never ask you to shrink for their comfort. You have to stop measuring your worth through the lens of other people's approval. Approval fades, shifts, and disappears. Self-respect remains. And while being liked feels good, being true to yourself feels powerful. You notice that once you begin living with integrity, saying what you mean, standing up for your values and honoring your limits, the right people will find you. And the ones who don't like the real you, and they were never meant to stay. So stop trying to please everyone. It's not your job to keep others comfortable at your own expense. Your job is to live in alignment with who you are. When you respect yourself, others either rise to meet you or fall away. Either way, you win. Being kind is a beautiful trait, but even beauty can become a burden when it's given without intention. Many people make the mistake of thinking that kindness must be endless, automatic, and unconditional. That to be a good person means to give without question, to help without pause, to forgive without boundaries. But kindness that lacks direction is noble. It's dangerous. When you give kindness to everyone without discretion, you don't just risk being taken advantage of, you actively invite it. That's why selective kindness is not cruelty. It's a form of self-care. There's a false belief that says if you don't help everyone, you're being selfish. But in truth, being kind to everyone at all times is a fast track to exhaustion. Your time, your energy, your attention, all of these are limited resources. You only have so much to give in a day, in a week, in a lifetime. If you're constantly pouring into others, especially those who don't pour anything back, you run dry. You'll find yourself feeling emotionally empty, physically tired, and spiritually numb, and you'll have no idea why. It's because your kindness has been scattered instead of focused. Selective kindness means you've learned the art of discernment. You no longer say yes out of guilt. You no longer offer your help out of fear. You no longer feel obligated to show up for people who repeatedly disrespect your time or energy. Instead, you choose to be kind to those who appreciate your presence, not just your services. You choose to give where it matters, where it's mutual, where it fuels growth, not where it feeds entitlement. This kind of kindness isn't small or selfish, it's smart. There will always be people who take your kindness for granted. Some may see you as weak, simply because you care. But being selective doesn't make you cold. It makes you conscious. Conscious of who deserves your energy, conscious of how much you have to give, conscious of the fact that your peace is not a price worth paying just to be seen as nice. You are not required to save everyone. You are not obligated to fix people who don't want to grow, and you are certainly not responsible for carrying those who refuse to walk. When you start practicing selective kindness, something powerful happens. You begin to heal. You stop resenting the people who drained you. You stop feeling bitter about the times you were used. You stop regretting the love and energy you gave away. Why? Because now, you're giving with awareness. You're giving by choice, not by default. And that kind of giving feels empowering, not exhausting. Kindness should never come at the cost of your health, your peace, or your purpose. When you learn to direct your kindness wisely, to give where it's earned and not where it's demanded. You reclaim control over your emotional energy. You become a person of strength, not just softness. You still lead with heart, but now you lead with boundaries too, and that's what makes your kindness truly powerful. We often think of kindness as always saying yes, always being available, always putting others first. But there's a deeper truth that most people overlook. Real kindness sometimes looks like saying no. It looks like walking away, setting firm limits and protecting your peace, even if others don't understand it. Setting boundaries isn't a rejection of kindness. It's actually a higher form of it. Because when you set healthy boundaries, you're not only being kind to yourself, you're also being honest with others about who you are and what you need. The idea that kindness means constant self-sacrifice is a dangerous lie. It teaches people that being a good person requires putting everyone else before yourself. It glorifies burnout, praises emotional martyrdom, and punishes self-respect. But here's the truth. You can't be truly kind to others if you're constantly betraying yourself. You can't pour love, patience, and support into others when you are running on empty. At some point, the kindness becomes forced, resentful, even toxic. Not because you are a bad person, but because you've been giving too much for too long without any space to breathe. Setting boundaries allows you to show up more authentically. When you say no to something that doesn't align with your values or capacity, you're saying yes to something more important, your peace, your focus, your well-being. And in the long run, people respect someone who knows their limits. They may not like it at first, especially if they've benefited from your lack of boundaries, but the people who truly care about you will adjust. They'll learn to appreciate the version of you that's real, not the one that's always agreeable. Boundaries are not walls meant to keep people out.